Prepare to attack.
Prepare to attack!
On the count of 3. 1, 2... Late!
What happened? Where are they? I don't know, sir. They must have hyperjets on that thing.
And what do we got on this thing? A Cuisinart?
No, sir.
We'll find them, catch them!
Yes, sir. Prepare ship for light speed.
No, light speed is too slow.
Light speed too slow?
Yes, we're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed? Sir, we've never gone that fast before. I don't know if the ship can take us.
What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Chicken?
Prepare ship! Prepare ship for ludicrous speed. Fasten all seatbelts. Seal all entrances and exits. Close all shops in the mall. Cancel the three-ring circus. Secure all animals in the zoo.
Give me that, you petty excuse for an officer. Now hear this. Ludicrous speed.
Sir, and you better buckle up.
Now buckle this. Ludicrous speed. Go!
Was that? Spaceball 1. They've gone to Plaid.
We passed them! Stop this thing!
We can't stop. It's too dangerous. We've got to slow down first.
Bullshit! Just stop this thing! I order you! Stop!
Let me help you, sir.
Are you all right, sir?
Fine. How have you been?
Fine, sir.
Good.
It's a good thing you were wearing that helmet.
Yeah?
What should we do now, sir?
Well, are we stopped?
We're stopped, sir.
Good. Well, why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Very good, sir.
Smoke if you got 'em.
Watching the world burn, watching the world burn. February 14th, 2025. Let's get into it. Anyway, I wanted to start with that clip, which I'm sure will got this video, if I'm allowed to use it, copyrighted on YouTube. So understand I make these videos out of love. I don't make any money on them. And I hope I educate you in some fashion. And that some of you do maybe enjoy these videos. I do get the occasional comment on Rumble. As I told you in the past, I think that YouTube suppresses my comments for the most part, or almost completely. So anyway, I apologize for the last video. I think that what I need now is a checklist. You know, mics, check. Zoom, check. Because what had happened was, and if you watched it on Rumble, or the Burn channel on Rumble, which I did not fix, I made a video of a squirrel in a tree, and I had it zoomed in, and then, you know, I forgot to take the zoom off, and so all you saw was my big mug. Luckily, there was nothing hanging out of my nose, so that was a good thing. So I want to explain that and apologize to you. So the theme of today's video is well, the reason why I had that clip up front is trying to report on all this. It's like somebody took a garden hose, stuck it down my throat, and turned the faucet on full blast. I mean, we're only, what, 17, 18 days, I can't remember, into the Trump White House. And I mean, I have never seen news come so fast. It used to be I had to hunt around for clips and things to show you, and I might watch 5 or 6 videos on YouTube and say, you know what, I like that, I'm gonna cut that out. No, man, now it's like, oh my God, I got 1,000 clips. Which ones do I want to put in this video, you know? And it's actually, so it's the opposite. And that's why we had that ludicrous speed. But anyway, I did want to talk about 2 things up front here, because we're going to talk about spending and savings, and you know, the 2 things. And we're going to get into all of that, but I want 2 figures for you to understand. The first is, now Trump is saying we spent $350 billion in Ukraine. Now, the thing I don't understand, maybe leave a comment or something, I don't understand, well, back during COVID, you know, when they locked nobody questioned the fact that the small businesses had to close their doors, but the Walmarts and the Home Depots and Lowe's all stayed open, you know, so the lockdowns, and then, you know, kicking kids out of school and putting masks on the kids, and, you know, all of that stuff. Everybody just kind of went along to get along. And, you know, I fought the state politicians more so than the general public, you know, because anyway, and of course in the Democrat states, they went batshit crazy. I mean, oh my God. I think Michigan had people locked in their houses for almost a year, man. It was worse than Canada. Anyway, so that Whitmer, gosh, she's ugly. Woohoo. Man, what's wrong with Democrats? It seems like a lot of Democrats are damn ugly, man. You know, Nancy Pelosi, I mean, I've talked about her. Maxine Waters, I mean, you know, AOC's pretty attractive, I have to admit, but, you know, once she opened her mouth, I'd run the hell the other way, you know. It's kind of like, okay, there's nothing but vacuous air in that head, you know. Oh, man. But so $350 billion to Ukraine, and then now we got the new figure. I didn't put it in these notes, but it was $30+ billion that the Biden administration spent on illegal aliens, transporting them. Of course, the NGOs made huge amounts of profit. Human trafficking, you know, food, lodging, I mean, everything. And so I mean, there's no doubt about it. All that whole operation was intentional. And I saw it from the beginning, but a lot of people were going, you know, why, I don't understand. Is this intentional? Is this intentional? Of course it was intentional. And what I've tried to tell you in these videos, that the Democrats, the Marxists, they want the total destruction of the United States. And that's what that is all about. And I think, and that's the theme of this video, I do believe they have accomplished it. And because I don't see how we come back from what they've done. I mean, the damage is just too severe. But you know, once again, I wonder why the Pentagon didn't push back against the White House. I mean, that pullout in Afghanistan, for example. You know, why in the world would they do that? You know, it's like the Democrats got in charge of the military. Of course, they took over the deep state. I got in the next video, I'll show you numbers in Washington, D.C., and it was insane of the number of people that voted Democrat in the town. I mean, it's overwhelming. I mean, the whole town is completely Democrat. So anyway, I digress. But I want to show you something. The thing I want to draw your attention to on this next clip is I want you to notice the Doge number, because that's now on the debt clock, versus the interest on the debt, okay? Or how fast the debt is accumulating. Okay, look at those 2 different numbers. It's not even close. So even though Doge is doing a good job of cutting, they can't cut enough, because we're going into debt faster than we can cut, which means you've got to have some sort of reset, and it's going to be painful. Okay, you're going to have either massive inflation, or a recession, or both, or a depression. It's inevitable, in my opinion. Okay, I don't see how you avoid that. But let's take a look at that clip. All right, so that was just a brief clip of the debt clock. And But let's get into the video. So the first thing is, well, we got to look at the numbers. Really big. Gold, 2,000, I don't know why I said 2,895. Is that right? Yeah, that's right, because it's approaching 3, I don't know. Geez. Silver, 32.54, and platinum is at 996. By the way, platinum is still a good price if you want to get it. And so, what can I say? Yeah, I got the number right on the gold. So let's, Department of Education. I wanted to talk about that for just a minute. So you have to understand that the Department of Education is a cabinet department that Congress passed into law. So even though Trump can cut from the Department of Education any waste and fraud that they find, he can't disband the Department of Education without a vote in Congress. And you must say, well, how does that compare to U.S. aid? U.S. aid was done by executive order. And as you've seen, any president comes in, you know, an executive order is not binding. It's not law that's been passed by Congress. So you can always, get rid of anything that's been created. And we've talked about that in past videos. But I just wanted you to know that as much as we want the Department of Education to go away, it would take 60 votes in the Senate. And we're not going to get those. The Democrats will vote unanimously against that. And unless, we win huge in the midterms, there's no way that we can get rid of the Department of Education. But let's just keep going. So this is Doge, and I'll read this to you. And this is more on the Department of Education. Today, the Department of Education terminated 29 DEI training grants totaling $101 million. One sought to train teachers to help students understand and interrogate the complex histories involved in oppression and help students recognize areas of privilege and power on individual and collective basis. Oh my God, just how I want my tax dollars spent. How about you? Oh my God. And then let's get a video because, a lot of people are talking about the egg prices. And what you don't understand is this is why I tell you that the Democrats were intentionally destroying the United States. So let's watch, let me read to you first. Egg prices. As far as the egg shortage, what's contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which led to a lack of supply in this country, a lack of egg supply, leading to the shortage. Now, we're going to get into why in the world would you kill 100 million chickens unless you want to destroy the United States. Oh, bird flu. Bird flu my ass. Let's watch that video.
Christian Day Talk.
Thanks, Caroline. Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage.
All right, so that was the press secretary on that. So let me read a little more. And we've got the picture up above of Phyllis Fong. She's a she's the USDA Inspector General, okay? And I took this from an X post, and but I had to change it because it got community noted for a little bit of the information that was incorrect, and I've corrected that information for you. So she's a 22-year-old deep state operative, was escorted out of the building and terminating her employment. She is one of the key players behind the artificial inflation of poultry and egg prices in the United States. She ordered the culling of millions of healthy birds using the fake excuse of mutating bird flu. But here's the truth. There was no pandemic. Fong personally ordered this mass bird exterminations in 2024, targeting farms in Colorado, Ohio, Arizona, Louisiana, and Nebraska. One case in Louisiana set the stage. A man who did not work on a poultry farm was allegedly diagnosed with H5N1 after finding dead birds in his yard. The CDC then a public story claiming 66 people were infected. Sources say the number is entirely fabricated. Before the media even blasted this fake outbreak, Fong and Biden's instant killing of 600,000 birds. The farmer owner who recently tested his flock on the order threatened him with $4 billion in fines and prison time if he didn't comply. She thought she was untouchable. When Trump began cleaning the deep state in January, she refused to leave, publicly claiming Trump had no authority over federal watchdogs. Now you know why the price of eggs is through the roof. That's intentional, man. That's intentional. They wanted the American people to suffer. You understand how Democrats hate you, man? They absolutely hate America. They want to destroy this country, especially the Biden administration. And they did a damn good job of it, too. I mean, my God. So this is pretty good. This is the Doge report and where your tax dollars are getting spent. Let's watch that video now.
In case you missed it, here is the Doge report for today. So where is our money actually being spent? Well, they found that $3 million is being used to study steroid-enhanced hamster fighting. I think you could just go to like a bar at night, watch a couple dudes get into it, and know what steroids will do for a fight, okay? $2.3 million has been used for studying cocaine effects on beagles. Why don't you just spend about $1,500, get yourself a Coachella ticket, get a lawn chair, sit back, watch. You'll understand what cocaine does to anyone. Coachella, just go there. $600,000 in parrot romance. That's important. It's definitely really important, actually. We'll keep that. $500,000 in racial aggression in mice. I'm sorry, do mice give a shit? They just want your food. They don't care if you're black, you're white, you're Asian. They don't care. They just probably want to get your food and your crumbs and in your house and on the streets and gross, okay? 1.1 million training mice to binge drink. Just go to UGA, pick a sorority house, pick a fraternity house, watch them on the weekends. They'll binge drink, study the effects after that. Free. Just again, lawn chair. See, I think we should just promote buying a couple of lawn chairs and go to a couple of these events. You'll get all the studies you need and willing participants. 2.1 million encouraging Ethiopians to wear shoes. That's effective for Americans, thank God. That's where our money is going. We know we can't buy groceries, but let's make sure those Ethiopians wear their shoes. I can't even get my kid to put their shoes on. Okay, can we maybe put a little money in that? Or sometimes I'm like, where's the other shoe? Why do you only have one? What happened to the second one? Okay. 187,000 verifying that kids love their pets. Unless you're raising Jeffrey Dahmer, your kids like their pets. It's just natural. Most people like pets more than like humans. I do. 2.7 million studying Russian cats on treadmills. Why don't we take 2.7 million and try to encourage more Americans to use treadmills? Okay. Finally, 875,000 studying cocaine effects on quail mating. Again, lawn chair, sorority fraternity house, a good party. Watch what happens when cocaine enters the room. So in case you missed it, that is where your hard-earned dollars are going this week in the Doge Report.
All right, so that was the Doge Report. And this is one of my favorite people on X. This is Insurrection Barty. As of December 2024, the State Department reported obligating $2.25 billion toward 453 new grants to nonprofits that used refugee in the provided grant descriptions. One such grant was to Church World Services for $375 million. 85% of its money comes from the government, and they advocate for the Paris Climate Accords. She said awards. I just cut and paste. Banning use of force, decriminalize drug possession, and no immigration enforcement at all. Oh, they just sued Trump. So if you didn't know, we could talk about those activist judges for just a minute. You know, you've got 300 judges in D.C. That are mainly Democrat that are going to fight. Now, you have to understand, a judge can't tell the executive branch what to do, and that's what they're attempting to do. It's not going to fly. Of course, it'll all get overturned, but still, I mean, just to tell you how crazy Democrats are. I mean, anyway, let's just keep going. So, by the way, look at this. This is a picture of Soros now. Hopefully you're seeing him right now. And this is Insurrection Barbie again. U.S. aid funneled $250 million to Soros entities to nation build. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So Soros, I told you in past videos, he was getting rich off of this whole damn thing. The Biden State Department also initiated $29.1 million worth of new grants to nonprofits saying the keywords journalist or journalism. This is Secretary Noem, and I told you this in a previous video, but I wanted to read it to you in her words. I have clawed back the full payment that FEMA deep state activists unilaterally gave to New York City migrant hotels. FEMA was funding the Roosevelt Hotel that serves as a Trendiagra base of operations and was used to house Laken Riley's killer. Mark my words, there will not be a single penny spent that goes against the interest and safety of the American people. Now, you don't think that the Biden administration knew that they were criminals in that hotel? It's intentional. They brought in the gangs. They brought in the cartels. They brought in the fentanyl. These are all intentional actions of the Biden administration and Democrats in general. They hate you, man. They want you dead. All right? Do you understand that? I mean, if you have a Democrat friend, understand they hate you. They want you dead. If they could slip you fentanyl in your veins and inject it in your freaking body, they would. All this is intentional. Ah, man, I'm sorry. I get on my box. All right, so Doge. Also today, the Department of Education terminated 89 contracts worth $881 million. One contractor was paid $1.5 million to observe mailing and clerical operations at the mail center. Now, if you didn't watch the interview between, the press conference that Trump and Elon did, he pointed that out in that press conference. So I was just wanted to reiterate that. We got a good video here. This is Representative Thomas Massey. U.S. aid funded an organization that fabricated evidence which was used to impeach President Trump. So U.S. aid has its thumbnails on a lot of shit, doesn't it? I mean, so they actually used it to try to impeach Trump. That's where the funding came from for the Russia hoax, and in addition to the Vindman case, where he, lied about what Trump said to Ukraine, and what Biden did say, by the way, if you've watched my previous videos. So let's watch that video now with Massey.
Mr. Schellenberger, can you explain how you traced USAID funding that served as the basis for whistleblower report in 2019, which led to the impeachment of President Trump?
Sure. Well, you may remember that the so-called whistleblower who was in the White House was actually a CIA analyst. And in that whistleblower's complaint, which led to the impeachment, one of the central pieces of evidence was created by a USAID funded and controlled organization called the OCCRP. And we have another piece out today about how it participated in the Russiagate hoax as well, creating essentially very important information leading to that. So, I mean, you have in USAID a much larger fund of money and a much broader strategy for information control that included censorship, but also, as I mentioned, taking control of investigative journalism really worldwide. I mean, its ambitions were, amazing. So yeah, I mean, that's an agency. When we saw that get shut down by DOJ, I thought that was completely appropriate. If there's something in there that it was doing that's valuable, then you could refund it later. But my view, same thing with CISA, death penalty for organizations that participated in violations of the First Amendment like CISA. Cybersecurity is an extremely important function. It shouldn't be contaminated and undermined by censorship activities.
Well, I think it's always been known that our government has funded the change in administrations, if we can say it politely, of other governments. But isn't it borderline treason when the taxpayer when organizations entrusted with protecting our country are now undermining our own government?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're trying to do regime change, illegal, if you're weaponizing DHS, FBI, CISA, that's treasonous regime change activities redirected, that you developed abroad, that we developed abroad for regime change, directed against the American people and our representatives. I mean, it's shocking, and we still haven't dealt with it as a country.
Mr. Chairman, I see my time has expired. I'd like to introduce into the record, or ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record, an article in Newsmax, Schellenberger, USAID paid for Trump impeachment effort, dated February 6, 2025.
Without objection. Gentleman, yield.
All right, so there was that video. The deep state, let's see, frequently funds regime change efforts abroad, but when it uses taxpayer money to undermine our own government, isn't that treason? And those were his continued words. That is treason. Okay, so I'm hoping that some of these people that have done these things are going to go to jail. And I'll tell you what, Pam Bondi is a bulldog, isn't she? I do think that was a bait and switch. You had Matt Gaetz in there, who was really hated it. I don't think Trump thought he had a chance. And so when the Democrats breathed that sigh of relief that they got rid of Matt Gaetz, he stuck Pam Bondi in there. And I think that's who, I'm just guessing, but I bet that's who he wanted all along. Because she's come out with both barrels blazing, man. I'm not seeing anything. I mean, I could do a whole video on her and all the stuff that she's doing. Hell, all the people in Trump's administration, how fast they're moving. So this is an interesting one. DOGE shuts down CFPB HQ-IS. This is the end of a $700 million bureaucracy. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, created in 2011, in part by Senator Warren, claims to protect consumers from predatory financial practices. In reality, it operates with zero congressional oversight, wields massive regulatory power, and burns through $700+ million a year. DOGE just took over, and the acting director, Russell Vought, shut down CFPB's DC headquarters for a week. Staff were told to work remotely as the agency faces an uncertain future. Isn't that freaking great? You see how they're moving? I got 3 pages of notes. I mean, I'm sorry this is going to be a long video. I mean, what else do you want me to do, man? I mean, holy shit. So then we got, this is another video. Trump talking about Doge finding massive fraud. Now, this was before the interview with Elon and Trump. So if you want to, but I liked what he had to say, because this video didn't get much playtime, whereas the interview with Trump and Elon got a lot of playtime. Let's watch that video.
To talk about widespread fraud and abuse.
Oh yeah, tremendous fraud. There's tremendous fraud, and it's hard to believe that you can have that kind of fraud. You're talking about are you talking about what? Wait. Which are you talking? You're talking about with regard to all of the investigations that are going on about this stupidity. What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our Attorney General, there's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form. And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country. They're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items. I went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff, and I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. He's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. They started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100. People are joining to help them because there's a massive fraud that's taken place.
All right, so that was Trump there. So now we got, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this handle. I'll put it up above. It says this is another video. The Biden EPA tossed $20 billion of gold bars off the Titanic. Big update. Oh, this is Zeldin. I'm sorry. This is, remember Zeldin? He ran for governor in New York, in that Hochul crazy Democrat lunatic got into office, and I'm sure that was a rigged election. I think Zeldin won that election. That's just my opinion. But big update. We found the gold bars, and they're now being recovered for you, the hardworking American taxpayers. So you can see how much fraud and abuse was going on, and they're doing the best they can. But it's going to take, like I said, they can't catch up with how fast the debt is increasing, or the interest on the debt. I just don't see how it's going to happen. Something massive has to break in the near future. So let's watch that video.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly $20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated, and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic. EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office, and will work with the Justice Department as well. The days of irresponsibly shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over. The American public deserves a more transparent and accountable government than what transpired these past 4 years. We take our obligations under the law as seriously as it gets. I've directed my team to find your gold bars, and they found them. Now we will get them back inside of control of government as we pursue next steps. As President Trump has vowed, we are going to usher in a new golden age of American success for the citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed.
Okay, so that was the Zeldin video. And this was, I tell you what, if you don't watch Alex Jones, I know a lot of you don't like him. He does a lot of great reporting. I tell you what, he's all over X now. And that's where I get a lot of my news on what's actually taking place with the Doge and all the because Jones is going crazy, man. I don't think the guy, he's like Trump, man. I don't think he gets any sleep because he's constantly reporting on this stuff. And he just made a video. I would have shown it to you where he did the Hulk Hogan thing and was ripping his shirt off and we've got him now. You know, I can't do Alex's voice, but it was funny as hell. So it says Catholic aid group downsizes in half. Doge cuts off their coveted human trafficking funds. How USAID was funding the treacherous invasion. Let's watch that video.
Catholic Relief Services bracing for massive cuts as much as 50% this year because of draconian reductions in U.S. foreign assistance ordered by the Trump administration. Oh, draconian. Oh, my. We don't want to fund illegal immigration anymore. We don't want to give you hundreds of billions of dollars for welfare for non-citizens anymore. Oh, it's so draconian. My God. So all these fake charity groups that are really just criminal organizations now. And look, if you were so dumb to work at these organizations and facilitate the human trafficking and the human smuggling and the open borders, if you were so stupid to continue to work at these organizations because you were getting paid well, that's on you. You knew what you were doing was a crime. And you know how I know? Because when we went down there and stuck a camera in your face, and when we went down there and filmed your operations, you freaked out. You panicked. You called the police. You tried to block the windows and lock the doors and intimidate us because you knew what you were doing was illegal. But you just thought, oh, we're getting government money and they run the whole thing, so we're just going to continue to do it and make hundreds of millions of dollars. Game over. And you'll be lucky. You'll be lucky. And you should thank your lucky stars if you don't end up in a courtroom defending yourself against treason. You'll be lucky. You better hope the Trump administration and the American people are that forgiving.
All right, so that's a guy that works on Jones's InfoWars show. His name is Owen Schroyer. Okay, so, and this is just an interesting factoid because I was telling you about inflation. You think we're going to have inflation? Europe. I mean, they're stupid as hell, man. They cut themselves off. Well, we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Biden did. But then they went even further and they got Ukraine to shut down the gas pipeline coming in there. And then I just saw where, I want to say it might have been, it was one of the Baltic states. And they've disconnected themselves from the power grid and convert it over to European power. And but anyway, I'll just read this to you. European natural gas prices have jumped above 58 per megawatt hour, 58 euros. Okay, I was trying to remember, or $100 per barrel in oil equivalent, which is absolutely devastating for any energy intensive production. And I got the graphic up above for you. But I mean, so you know that the industry depends on that natural gas. So German industry, European industry, that's just going to cease to exist. And they did it to themselves. That's the amazing part. And, you know, we won't go into it in this video. Maybe I'll make a future video. But, you know, the Vice President, Vance, he's over there telling Europe off and saying, look, man, Ukraine is the Biden's war and your war. It's not our war, which is a beautiful statement. And so, he's saying, you know, you guys got to take it over, and we're going to work with Russia to put an end to this thing. And I won't go into all of that. You can watch those if you want to find them. So, by the way, this is the Elon Musk posted this. He says, "Is this a joke?" I mean, because it is. It sounds like a joke. So it says, "What Democrat?" I've got the picture right now. While I read this to you, I'll just keep it up. What Democrats did today. Every single Senate Democrat voted against Tulsi Gabbard, and I added in, and RFK Jr., and they'll vote against Kash Patel. I'm sure every single Democrat. So, you know, why in the world? I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK were actually Democrats. So, I mean, I don't know why they'd be proud to vote against them. And, you know, RFK, he brought a lot of votes into Trump's campaign because he could make America healthy again. We could do, I think I did a video on him in the past, but I do want to do some future videos on what he's doing to make America healthy again and in a future video. So we'll see where that goes. Senator Raphael Warnock introduced the Capping Prescription Costs Act to cap all out-of-pocket costs on prescription drugs. We'll talk about that in a minute. Arkansas Senate Democrats successfully voted down a bill to allow municipalities to remove fluoride from their water systems. We'll talk about that in a minute. A coalition of 191 House and Senate Democrats sent a letter demanding the removal of Elon Musk operatives from the CFPB. Democrat Ken Jenkins won a special election of Westchester County executive, soundly defeating his Trump-backed opponent. So fluoride, we already know that fluoride is not good. So you see how Democrats want to kill you. Otherwise, why in the world would you vote to put fluoride in the water? Right? I mean, that's a poison. It's the same thing with like red dye. Do you want red dye in your food? You know, what was the other one that I was going to comment on? Price caps. Price caps don't work. You understand that? You can't just tell a business, even though, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not going to hurt the prescription drug companies. They're going to make money whether you got price caps on them or not. But in general, when you put a price cap on something, either that market is going to move to some place where it's not. Like, so let's take the Russian oil, for example. The Biden administration put a cap on Russian oil of $60 a barrel. Well, Russia just said, screw that. And they started selling to China and India, and they were paying market price for the oil. And what was ironic was then the oil was sold by India back to Europe, who was sanctioning Russia. And so Europe was paying a premium on top of what the Russians were making for their oil. So you can see where that price cap went zero. I mean, it went nowhere. In fact, it was completely irrelevant, I mean, to everything. But anyway, I wanted to get back to, so, you know, how presidents throughout history have all talked about the same thing, about how they're going to, you know, rein in spending and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and they always list a bunch of things and then they never do it. But, you know, what's ironic is a few Democrats actually did the same thing. They said, oh, we're going to rein in spending. Let's watch this video. This is posted by Russian television. I couldn't believe it. I said, what? I mean, I tell you, sometimes I find some good shit on Russian television. But this is Clinton and Gore. What happened to them? Musk poses a great question. Looks like reining in government spending isn't a new idea. Let's watch that clip of Clinton and Gore.
This report tells us how to cut waste, cut red tape, streamline the bureaucracy, change procurement rules, change the personnel rules, and create a government that works better and costs less.
I've read it, and where it says the president should, the president will.
Among the 800 recommendations, eliminating 12% of the federal workforce, merging some government agencies like the FBI, the DEA, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, closing hundreds of government offices outside Washington.
From the day I took office, one of the commitments that I made to the American people was that we would do a better job here in Washington in rooting out wasteful spending. We thought that it was entirely appropriate for our governments and our agencies to try to root out waste, large and small, in a systematic way. It means cutting some programs that I think are worthy, but we may not be able to afford right now. A lot of the action is in Congress and legislative, but in the meantime, we don't need to wait for Congress in order to do something about wasteful spending that's out there. We haven't seen as much action out of Congress as we'd like, and that's why we launched on our own initiative the campaign Cut Waste. And we're going to keep on finding every possible way that we can do that, even if Congress is not acting. There you go.
Wasn't that fantastic? So anyway, we got to finish off with the Babylon Bee. I love the Babylon Bee. If I missed anything, I'll add to the video. But this is the Babylon Bee, and you're seeing it up above. World Health Organization warns Trump funding cuts may delay the release of a new pandemic. And of course, that's another savings we got, because Trump is no longer, we're no longer part of the World Health Organization and the WEF, you know, the World Economic Forum. So those are two big items that are going to save us money. So anyway, I mean, they're doing everything right, and I'm loving every minute of it, but I just don't think they can get us out of the hole. All right, if I think of something else or I missed anything, I'm going to go back through the notes. If not, peace out. Stay free. All right, I told you if I came up with something, I would add it to the video. And I have one more thing here, and because this is to tell you how much the Democrats hate you. The Democrats are actually against this. All right, they are against this. So the DOGE subcommittee just discovered 2.7 trillion. Trillion in improper payments in Medicare and Medicaid overseas to people who should not have gotten it. And it says, well, Democrats, shut the fuck up. This government spending needs to be audited and gutted. And then, of course, I have a video of the press secretary talking about that.
Brian.
Yes. I want to go back to DOGE just for a second. Earlier, the subcommittee headed by Chairman Marjorie Taylor Greene, her and her staff discovered $2.7 trillion in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, overseas, to people who should not have gotten it. Some of this room might have missed that press conference. Can you elaborate on what the president is thinking at this point?
Well, again, that's another example. There's a very long list of the fraud, waste, and abuse that DOGE is identifying on a daily basis. Elon Musk also talked about yesterday about Social Security payments that are going out the door for people who are no longer with us. Unfortunately, I would say that is certainly fraud. There's also a lot of contracts they've identified that, just as a hypothetical example, are $1 million, but only 500,000 went out the door. So where's the rest of that cash? And so that's the thing. Those are the things that DOGE is working on every single day. And I would just remind everybody in this room, this is what President Trump campaigned on doing. He's delivering on a promise that 77 million people elected him to do.
And we're definitely going to finish up right here, but why in the world would Democrats oppose finding fraud to save Medicare? And they always say, oh, they're going to take away your Social Security. Why would Democrats oppose us finding all of the people that are getting Social Security on duplicate Social Security numbers? Do you see how they want to destroy the United States? It's obvious. No person who cares about America with one freaking pinky finger or pinky fingernail would oppose these things unless you hate the United States. And they hate you. Peace out and stay free. Well, I wanted to add to the video. Sometimes it pays to just listen to the radio and hike along. But I mean, let's add to the crimes of the Democrats. If you didn't believe they hated me from watching the rest of the video, let's point out another thing. Now, if you didn't know, in El Salvador, that was a very, very violent country. And they elected a leader, and he declared all of these mass murderers and serial killers, the cartel gangs, terrorists. And they rounded them up. They built a huge prison, and right now there's 80,000 detainees of criminals that were convicted of just heinous crimes. Well, what happened was, you know, the ones that, saw what was happening, they fled to the north to get, and by the way, the Biden administration knew some of these people were mass murderers and serial killers and trafficked them into the United States. Now, this is a developing story, and I don't know whether they're going to be able to prove who did this, or that, that they knew that they were mass murdering criminals. How could you not? I mean, El Salvador had all these names on their terrorist watch list because they had declared them terrorists. It would have been very easy to identify these people. So understand that the Biden administration knew they were bringing in serial killers and mass murderers. I mean, these people are satanic, demonic individuals, and they brought them into the United States intentionally. Oh, it makes me angry. And the other thing to add to this video that I hadn't really thought about was the district attorneys. Okay, especially in Bragg in New York, or Letitia James, or all these Democrats at the source. And by the way, since our taxpayer dollars funded George Soros, who then in turn took the money to elect these satanic district attorneys across the United States who do nothing but release the criminals back onto the streets so that they can terrorize the American people. Do you see what the Democrats do? Do you see who the Democrats are? How many stories have you heard of Democrats releasing, criminal 15, 16, and so the police, what's the point of being a policeman? If you arrest somebody for a crime and the district attorney just tosses them right back on the street, that's intentional, my friends. That's intentional. Just saying.